Yes.
Welcome back to the show.
Thanks. Welcome. I don't know.
Welcome back to Gnarly Chats with Noah and Chandler. I'm Noah and he's Chandler.
Yep.
Yeah, you would say that.
That's true. I would say that.
You would. So, interesting stuff to talk about today.
Oh?
But first of all, how was your weekend?
It was good. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was busy. Saturday didn't even feel like a weekend. Felt like another day of just like grind.
I mean, I work on Saturdays, so
That's true.
My weekend is Sunday.
How many hours a week do you work?
So I have 40 from one job and then another 16 from the other, so 56. But when I'm not in school, then it's 61 hours.
Whoa. That's a lot of hours, bro.
Yeah. Lot of hours.
How do you do it?
And not a lot of money.
Not yet.
Not yet. How do I do it? I pretend that I'm going to catch up on my sleep one day eventually. And just get no sleep ever.
That makes sense. Just give yourself the goalpost of a lot of sleep one day.
Yeah.
So you have something to hope for.
Yeah. And just hope that my heart doesn't fail before then from lack of sleep.
Right. Jeez. No, Harley and I bought a new couch on Saturday.
Yeah. I have sat on that couch since.
It's nice. It's right behind you, actually.
Yeah.
We have been talking about it for a long time. And Harley's been really wanting a new couch. So we were looking around a couple different stores, and on Facebook Marketplace, there's all these like warehouse sales or whatever. So we're like, okay, we'll go try one in Orem somewhere. So we go to this warehouse sale. We're walking around. They have all these like sectionals and like dining tables or whatever. And the prices are like $2,000, $2,400. And this is the clearance event.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Is this like RC Willie?
It was Best Deal mattress or something.
Like worst deal.
Not to hate on them or anything, but for like just graduated college kids, that ain't in our budget.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, they look like they had really good stuff, just not stuff that we could afford. You know? So
or stuff that you want to afford right now.
Yeah. So after that warehouse, they referred us back to their like store on State Street. So we just went from the warehouse to the store because they said they had more clearance stuff there. Mm-hmm. It's a nice store. We walked around it and stuff. The cheapest sectional we could find was $850. And it was probably like 5 or 6 cushions long with like a chaise or whatever. But it was like...
AKA a long boy?
It was like super leather.
Oh.
Like very tight leather, and it was like brilliant white.
Tight. Oh.
And I was like, that's not what we're going for.
Yeah, it's an interesting vibe.
It's like, I see why this is $850 now.
Yeah.
Because who would want to sit on that?
They got it on accident, and now they need to sell it. So
yeah.
It's just trying to like sell it at cost.
Seriously. Well, and then I was thinking about that because I was like, how are they making that much money on couches? Because I was actually looking it up the other day. It's like some retailers like Ashley can mark it up from a few different websites I read, 50% to 400%.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Well, like that, it's kind of the same thing with like mattresses or like dishwashers and like refrigerators, like big appliances like that, because they have to mark it up that much because you're not going and buying a dishwasher every week.
Right.
Like that's something that's going to last you or should last you like at least 10 years or like a mattress or something like that. So it's not very expensive to produce necessarily, but they have to make their money back because they're only going to sell it to one customer like once every 5 to 10 years. So they got to make up that money for the meantime. So stuff like that gets really expensive. But like if you look at phones, like I mean some phones are super expensive, like the brand new fancy phones that come out. But you can get a pretty decent phone for not that expensive, you know?
Right.
But if there were like new phones, or like if you look at like PlayStations and stuff that come out every like 7 to 10 years, like those are pretty expensive compared to computers that you could just go build your own.
Right.
And like that would last you forever because you could just upgrade parts and stuff for pretty cheap. But
right.
Since they come out every so often, they can mark up the price a lot because they have to make money somehow.
Makes sense. Well, and it's like if you manufacture a sectional for like $400 to $600, times that by 4, there's your $2,400. You know, like,
yeah,
I get that. Plus, you got to pay the people to sell it and ship it and keep the lights on in the warehouse. Like, okay,
and give the person a little like stipend for selling it, selling it to someone.
Yeah,
little, like commission for sales and stuff if they've got the sale.
Right. So after Harley and I went through the second store, Harley looked on Facebook and saw another warehouse sale in American Fork.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit hesitant at this point because I was like, I don't want to go spend $2,400. You know, it's not going to be any better than the store.
Boy, were you wrong.
But we were bored, and so we just went anyway. And we found some killer deals. It was actually really impressive. They had these really big sectionals starting at like $1,200, $1,300, like anywhere from like $1,100 to like $1,700 for like good couches. And it's just this like couple, this young couple. I think they have a kid or two that just like run this whole like operation. I don't know where they get their furniture or how they get it at that low of a price or sell it at that low of a price.
I mean, they probably buy it like directly from the manufacturer, wherever that is.
Yeah.
So that way they're not paying for multiple companies to ship it and store it in their warehouses. Because a lot of stores like RC Willey and stuff, they have, like, obviously they're buying it from the manufacturer.
Right.
But they aren't storing all their stuff at the store where they sell it. So, like, if you're looking online at stuff and it's like, oh, pick up and store, it could be stored at, like, some warehouse that they have that's just full of furniture that people don't really go and buy stuff there.
Right.
It's just a storage place that they have, like, halfway across the country. But then you order it online, and the cost of it online helps to pay for all the shipping to ship it to the store that you're going to pick it up at and to move it and stuff. So, I mean, if you're buying directly from the manufacturer and you're covering the shipping costs yourself, then, like, you can sell them pretty cheap.
Which makes sense, yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're making 50% profit, then that's good. I mean, everyone's going to go to you to buy couches and stuff because it's good deals and good product.
Seriously? Well, especially in a place like Utah Valley where you have a lot of young couples.
At least to start. I mean, eventually, once they have enough money and stuff, they'll probably mark it up more. But, like, starting out a business, a lot of times you're in a lot of debt for a couple of years. So it's probably good to sell it at, like, smaller margins of profit to get customers going there and get good sales before marking it up and expanding.
Who knew? Man, I love these little small businesses popping up everywhere and, like, really taking some of the market share of these, like, big retailers, though. Makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's the free market system at its best.
Woo.
So.
Except nothing you buy is free.
Way to go, competition. Way to go, capitalism.
For the win.
So this is interesting.
Okay.
So last week at work, I put on a little movie on my phone that was just playing in the background. Guess what movie it was?
Saving Private Ryan.
No. But close. Just
Really?
kidding, not really.
Oh. There's one that I've heard about recently. It's not Brokeback Mountain. It's
Oh.
No. It's it has a similar name, like in that there's like a mountain or like a ridge or something. It's about a war medic.
Hacksaw Ridge?
That's the one.
Yeah, with Andrew Garfield.
It's not Brokeback Mountain. Hacksaw Ridge. That's the one. Is that what you're watching?
No.
No. Okay.
But I have seen that one. That one's really good. Pretty gory though, I will say.
Yeah.
But really good.
Was it The Work and the Glory?
It wasn't that good.
Andrew Tate, the movie.
Nothing will ever be as good as The Work and the Glory.
It's true.
They peaked in cinema and filmmaking with that movie.
In the 90s.
In the 90s.
Early 2000s, whenever that came out. What were you watching?
What a trilogy. I was watching Anastasia.
Okay.
Have you seen that movie?
I've heard of it.
The Disney movie?
No.
I'm pretty sure. Is it Disney? I'm pretty sure it is.
So I've
I have to
probably
fact check
seen
this.
it before once. I've seen Fantasia, but that's different. That's like Mickey Mouse with a wizard hat, which is the coolest Mickey Mouse, by the way. That and like the original Mickey Mouse from like the 20s. Those are the cool ones.
Was it Disney? I don't think it was.
It's a musical, right?
Is Anastasia a Disney? I'm pretty sure it is. It says Anastasia was the first 20th century Fox animated feature to be produced by its own animation division.
So it's not Disney.
Doesn't look like it.
I mean, it technically is now because they bought Fox, but when it was made, it was not.
Yeah, so I think they own the rights to it now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't originally a Disney movie.
Is that similar to like Annie?
No.
What is
Well, I mean,
Anastasia?
sort of, I guess. Like, it's based off an orphan.
Like an orphan grill?
Yeah, so it's about this girl in Russia who is
That makes sense.
the daughter of, like, the emperor
Of Rasputin.
of the Romanov Empire.
The Tsar.
The Tsar and the Tsarist, or whatever. So it was Nicholas and Alexandra Romanov. Yeah, Romanov.
What about
Romanov.
Natasha Romanoff?
I feel like that's a singer. Is that a singer?
It's-
No, that's the Black Widow.
Yeah.
Frig. I was like, why does that feel like a singer? Anyway, so in the movie, it talks about how in the beginning of the movie, she's with her family, everything's all groovy, and then Rasputin comes in and like kills her parents, and then she was trying to escape the palace with her grandma, who was royalty, obviously, and then they were going to go to Paris together, but then it was like super crazy. There was a revolution happening, and they got separated. And then she forgot everything that happened, because in the movie it kind of looks like it gives you the impression that she like hit her head, so she had like amnesia. And so after that night, they found her wandering on the streets, and then she grew up in an orphanage after that, but didn't know who she was.
Okay.
And then you get, like, fast forward till she's 18. Well, a boy who worked in the palace during that revolution time is now trying to find girls who can play the part of Anastasia, so he can take that girl to the grandma in Paris and get, like, the reward or money or whatever. So he's trying to find a girl to, like, act it out or, like, be convincing enough.
Pretend to be her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like, through a turn of events, they find each other, and he realizes that she's, like, the real princess or whatever. So, anyway.
Does she get reunited with her grandma?
In the end, she does. Spoiler alert.
Yay, but her family's still dead, so...
yeah, her parents are.
Fat rip.
But the main adversary, or the antagonist, is Rasputin.
Dude, he's a wild guy.
He was freaking weird.
Yeah. He's the one that, like, made all the... He, like, made a bunch of predictions and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so he
did,
was
like, a lot of weird things.
a self-proclaimed holy man is kind of what I was reading about. But he was born
a prophet in the wilderness.
He was born in Siberia, and
Whoa.
as, like, a teenager was doing, like, a bunch of really weird stuff. And so...
Like ayahuasca.
Yeah, like Iowa in
DMT.
Siberia. He was on shrooms.
Siberian shrooms.
But he was doing all this weird stuff because his name was originally Grigory Yemovich, or Yefimovich. I don't know.
Excuse me, what'd you say? What'd you call me?
Grigory Yefimovich. That sounds right. Something like that.
Apologize to all you Siberians out there.
Sorry, my Russian's crap. But
Privyet. I think that's hello.
Because he was so weird as a teenager, he got the name Rasputin, which means debauched one. Isn't that crazy?
And it's like the Russian version of rascal.
Pretty much. Or scoundrel or something like that.
Yeah.
So he did a bunch of weird stuff. At 18, he like turns it all around because he like converts to Christianity, and he goes to this Russian Orthodox monastery and is like, you know, changing his life or whatever, being super devout. And then he kind of gets involved with a sect of Russian Orthodox Christianity called the Klisti. Am I saying that right? The Klisti? Klisti?
We'll go with Kleisty.
Anyway, I was kind of reading up on it, and I could be totally misrepresenting their beliefs here. So
go for it. They're white. It's fine.
If I am, I'm sorry. I don't think it's actually a sect anymore. I think it ended in like the 1920s or something. But if there's anyone out there, sorry.
Hold on. When was he alive? Was this like the 1800s?
He
17,
died.
16?
This was like early 1900s when everything was going down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is pretty recent. I guess it was like right before the whole like Bolshevik revolution and stuff.
So he was born in
Proletariat.
1869 and died in 1916.
Okay, yeah.
So this was like
right before World War One.
Just over 100 years ago.
Well,
that's crazy. But yeah, so he gets caught up in this sect, and it's like, as far as I understand it from like what I was reading, they believe like the most inner peace you can find is through seeking God's forgiveness, which I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, nice.
Interesting.
But, and again, I could be totally wrong here, but from what I read, the way that you can do that is just by like committing a bunch of like super horrible sins.
And then asking for forgiveness.
So then you get the forgiveness. So they're chasing this like high of forgiveness.
Okay.
Again, I could be totally
it's
wrong.
Like they're seeking
here.
Forgiveness, but they're like, oh, well, if we're looking for forgiveness, we have to do things wrong to be forgiven. So let's just do a bunch of things wrong, get forgiveness. And then the more forgiveness we get, the better we'll be.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I believe that. That's a good moral philosophy.
Let's start that back up. Just kidding.
Do as many awful things as you can so that you can deathbed repentance and just, sorry.
Say all those cuss words you've always wanted to say.
Oh, F.
Like shoot.
And darn.
And gee willikers.
And fudge.
and flip. Yeah, so that's kind of what he got into and was super devout and as far as that goes. Well, they would also hurt themselves, I think. In terms of like self-punishment.
Okay.
As another way to like gain God's forgiveness.
To show that like, hey, look, I'm atoning for the things I've done wrong.
Right.
Look at me.
Yeah, so that there was some of that too.
I could get behind that.
And a lot of other questionable stuff going on too.
Like being in Siberia.
Like living in Siberia. So then after a while he ends up getting married, has 4 kids, and he's like, okay, cool, like whatever, and like wanders off.
He's not getting any Dad of the Year awards. He went to go find some groceries for the family.
Exactly. He went to go get some milk.
He went to go murder the Tsar, his wife.
And he ends up, so he just like wanders from like Russia or Siberia down to like Greece, and then over to like Jerusalem, just kind of like living off.
Visit the Holy Land.
Yeah, just kind of doing whatever, just finding himself, just taking his hot girl summer walks over to Jerusalem, because why not?
And Greece.
And so the way he kind of supported himself was just like healing people or like prophesying for people, or, you know, just being like a priest or like a holy man, and then people would give him money. So after that, he winds up back in St. Petersburg, which I believe was the capital at the time. Could be wrong.
I think so. I think that they changed St. Petersburg to Leningrad.
Right.
Is what it was called after. I think it used to be called St. Petersburg. But then when like Stalin took over and like Lenin and stuff, they changed it to Leningrad. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Fact check.
I'm not Russian. Not yet.
So he winds up back in St. Petersburg, and then he like gets in with the religious crowd there. And then I guess at the time the Russian courts were super into like mysticism and the occult and stuff. And so
we need to bring that back.
But Grigory,
but not with crystals.
Yeah,
and like essential oils. He's like, I have quartz from Siberia.
I have quartz.
I have Himalayan salt or Siberian salt for your salt lamps.
I have
to
this
help keep you grounded and relaxed.
This amethyst to make your decisions for you. So he was entertaining the courts in that aspect of just like prophesying and like teaching or whatever. And then, let's see. In 1905, he met the royal family for the first time, the Romanovs.
But it wouldn't be the last time.
And he later, so a few years after he met the royal family, they called him back because their son, I don't know who his son was. So Nicholas and Alexandra, like the rulers, their son was a hemophiliac.
So he loves blood.
No, his blood he couldn't clot.
Oh.
So every time he would get cut or whatever, he would bleed out like a lot, and he would almost die.
Oops.
So then they called Rasputin as kind of a last-ditch resort, last-ditch effort. So Rasputin comes and somehow cures him.
Gives him a blood clot in his brain.
Somehow, like, voodoo magics this kid and, like, cures him. So then he's, like, super tight with, like, the Romanovs.
Okay.
And then, like, fast forward, World War I is, like, breaking out.
Yikes.
In, like, 1914, 1915. So Nicholas, like, the ruler, the Tsar, he goes off to, like, help the troops and, like, lead them on the front lines. Meanwhile, his wife is hanging back in Russia, like, ruling the country and taking care of all the internal affairs. And, like, Rasputin is her, like, personal advisor.
Hot.
And at this point, he has, like, a ton of political power because he's appointing, like, military leaders and, like, church leaders, all because of his, like, power.
Yeah.
And that's when people started to not like him a lot.
Oh.
And then...
just because he would say, like, and do random things, like, kind of crazy things? Or is it because he was just, like, some outsider who had a ton of control now?
I think...
like, you don't deserve it.
I mean, I don't know, but I think it's possible that he was an outsider. People didn't like that. And there was rumors that he was, like, having an affair with the queen.
Hot.
Or the czaress or whatever. With Alexandra. They were kind of fooling around. So a lot of the, like, conservatives who were, like, related, like the royalty or whatever, were, like, super pissed about that. And they were like, okay, we need to, like, do something about this. Because they thought he was just, like, disgracing the whole royal family, which arguably he was. And so I don't know exactly who it was. I'd have to go back. But a group of guys who were related to the Romanovs invited him over for dinner, tried to poison him. That didn't work. And then they, like, shot him a bunch of times. And then they threw him in a river that was, like, frozen over, and then he drowned.
But he lived.
And that was the end of Rasputin.
Oh, that's how he actually died?
That's how he died, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that you were going to say that, like, he came back again, and then he died
The
later.
accounts that I read, people were saying he was stabbed and then shot and then drowned, and then people are just saying, like, he was poisoned, then shot, then drowned. But there was one site that said they did an autopsy on him and said that he never drowned. He was dead before they threw him in the water.
Okay.
So, shot to death makes the most sense to me. But he could have drowned.
Yeah. I could see it.
And then the whole, like, a few weeks after that happened, the Bolshevik Revolution happened.
Dang.
And then that's when Vladimir Lenin led the revolution, and then the Soviet Union happened.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So in the movie, they actually kind of get the timeline a little bit wrong because, like, they portray the revolution and Rasputin dying, like, all in one night.
Okay.
Which didn't have, like, they were weeks apart and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it's a great movie. I actually really like the soundtrack. It's got some good music. And it is based off a true story, I guess. Mixed in with some theatrical license,
and
of course.
And
some songs, but it's a great movie.
Nice.
But yeah, so now you know.
The more you know.
But that was interesting, though. I didn't know that sect of, like, the Russian Orthodox Church was a thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't blame them, though. Every like major Christian religion, I feel like, has their, like, break-offs that are just, like, super weird and, like, really immoral.
Yeah.
In the name of being moral, you know?
Yeah, it's true. There's I don't know if it's, like, still a thing. I'm sure it is, but very small. But there was, I think it was in the 90s, early 2000s. It was called the Church of Euthanasia.
Oh.
But their, like, motto or belief was, well, their belief was that, like, humans were destroying the planet and that there's, like, too many of them. I need to, like, get rid of humans.
Yeah.
And, like, their kind of motto was save the planet, kill yourself.
Jeez.
And so they were all for, like, abortions and suicide. But, like, they didn't believe in murder because, like, it had to be a voluntary choice. It's like, that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
But they were just, like, super big advocates for just, like, suicides and abortions and, like, stopping humans' existence. Because they thought that we were destroying the world. Which, I mean, to some extent, I guess. But, like, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at maps of, like, forests and stuff in the world, and there's more forests and trees today than, like, there have been in the past.
Whoa.
Just from, like, people planting for lumber and stuff. Like, lumber is used for everything. Like, you have to plant so many trees to keep that sustainable.
Yeah.
So, like, there has to be more trees now than there were before, because otherwise, like, your business is going to run out.
It's going to fail, yeah. So, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it was interesting. I looked today, like, this day in history.
Yeah.
For, like, what happened January 31st throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was in, like, 1609, there was some girl, I don't know who, but she was spared from being, or she was determined to not be a witch in the Salem trials. I don't know who she was or, like, why that's important.
Yeah.
Guy Fawkes died today.
Who's Guy Fawkes?
In, like, the 1600s. So he was so I don't know if you've seen, like, the Guy Fawkes masks. If you look it up, you've probably seen it. Have you heard of Anonymous? Like the internet hacker group, whatever?
No.
Okay. Well, that's kind of their symbol. It's FAWKES.
Oh, like Hawks, but with an F.
Yeah. So
oh,
that, like,
I
mask
see.
there, that's supposed to be his face, because, like, that's kind of what he looked like. He had the little mustache. He did have, like, a beard and stuff, but he wore, like, the old pilgrim's hats. So he was around in, like, the 1600s. But I don't know what he believes specifically, although Anonymous is, like, people shouldn't fear their government. Like, the government should be transparent, and Anonymous, like this hacker group, takes inspiration from him and probably some of his beliefs and things. Whoa. And, like, go about, like, declassifying things, like, exposing things that corrupt governments are doing, like, hacking governments, just to, like, give exposure and, like, bring things to light to the public. So they're kind of interesting. But they, Guy Fawkes, whenever he was around, like, probably the 1600s, he was part of a plot to kill the king of England. Whoa. And to, like, put in a different government that wasn't a monarchy, because he didn't believe, or I don't know if he didn't believe in the monarchy or he just wanted, like, a different monarch in power.
Yeah.
But he was wanting to kill him and was part of a plan. They, like, filled up a ton of kegs with gunpowder, and their plan was to blow up the palace with the king in it. I don't know. Like, he ended up getting caught somehow before the explosion happened. I don't know how far into the plan they were. Yeah. But he was caught, and then he was hanged.
Whoa. Like, he was, like, executed, like, today. And, like,
there was...
Was that the 1600s?
I think so, yeah. 15 or 1600s. then there was Harry S. Truman, the president, in 1950 announced that the U.S. was working on the H-bomb.
Whoa.
Which is bigger than the atomic bomb.
So H is in hydrogen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he announced that they were working on this because, like the Cold War had started, it was ramping up. It was 1950, so it's just after World War II. The Russians had like detonated a bomb that was like really big, and they like needed to like prepare for that, I guess, to defend against that and intimidate the Russians. So they started developing the H-bomb.
Right.
And so they, I guess they had tested, or they were doing research on it for a while. And then they found out that one of the guys who was a head scientist there, who was German, was actually a spy for the Soviet Union. And so they realized that the Soviets knew and had all the research that the Americans did for the H-bomb, and that they were like equally matched at that point. But the U.S., like, I don't know if they executed him, imprisoned him, I don't know. But he has gone off the project. They developed it, and then the Soviet Union finished developing it 3 years later.
Yeah.
And I guess the U.S. tested the H-bomb on one of the Marshall Islands, in like that chain of islands, and it just like vaporized the whole island.
No.
And then the Russians just probably tested it in Siberia. I don't know.
Right.
But like
they got the land.
Yeah, I just thought that it was interesting that like the Cold War was just, hey, we're going to intimidate you by like how impressive our bombs and stuff can be.
Right.
And like how much damage we can do. It's like a show of force. And then the other side's just like, yeah, we can do that too. And just like playing like cat and mouse.
Just playing
like catch up.
Like who's gonna break first?
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. And I was telling you this morning about like the video about North Korea and stuff.
Oh,
like, when that started, because Russia was backing North Korea.
Oh.
And so like Russia was kind of supplying and supporting them, or the Soviet Union was, for like the whole time the Soviet Union was around. And it wasn't until the 90s when the Soviet Union collapsed that North Korea like fell backed into a corner and like started freaking out more and like getting more extreme in like their missile testing and their like global posture and stuff. That they got a lot more intense because the Soviet Union collapsed, and I was like their biggest supporter for a while. But yeah, kind of interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah. What else was there today in history? There was...
History is bananas. There's a lot of cool people. A lot of crazy people in history.
Oh, the U.S. Embassy was attacked by the Viet Cong and like taken over by the Viet Cong for like 6 hours or something. They took over the U.S. Embassy before the U.S. could get back in like this in 1968. I think.
Oh my gosh.
There was the Space Shuttle Columbia that exploded on re-entry and killed like all 7 people on it.
Oh, right.
That was in like 2003, I think.
Right.
So. Dang. But yeah, kind of interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much all I had.
Okay.
So I guess we'll just wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks
for the gnarly chats.
Yep.
Plug. And that's a wrap.